never dreaming of the imagery still extant to give visible being once more to the types of divinity. Hebraists have interpreted the name of Shadai as meaning the Almighty. But the first powers, forces, and mighty ones who were recognized in the heavens were no personifications of power as the result of abstract concepts in the modern sense of an almighty one, nor were they personifications of thunder, lightning, or winds, but simply the visible turners round in the planisphere. As it could not be known that the earth was a revolving orb, these revolvers, who were identified as the returners back, appeared to have made their way through the earth. The moon was visibly renewed, and might be a fresh creation every month. The sun also that rose again might not be the same sun that set, but that group of 7 stars which always kept the same companionship and relationship would be the earliest to demonstrate their identity. These are the first mighty ones, divine ones of typology, the first sailors across the abyss of the waters, as the 7 Kabiri or Ho-gates or Elohim. The first who swam the waters as the 7 bears, cows, and earlier hippopotami, or voyaged in the ark as the 7 in human form, the 7 potent and puissant ones, represented first of all as the Genetrix Septiformis, whose type as the water horse was the embodiment merit of power and potency. Kepsh, Kep, or Kepha, her names, mean force, puissance, and all that can be expressed by the Hebrew Shadai, rendered almighty. The old goddess of the Great Bear was personified as the first almighty, as the turner round at the polar center of the starry system, the initial point of everlasting movement. The Egyptian Kepsh, the mighty one in the north, whose image is Behemoth, became the Kaus of the Arabians, of whom they tell such wonderful tales. Kai Kaus, the sun, is said to have reared a city and a palace of great splendor, which was garrisoned by a genie, and afterwards destroyed by an angel of God. The Persian traditions affirm that Kai Kaus, the builder, endeavored to take heaven by escalade. As to Shadai, the Almighty, it is more to the present purpose that Shad in Hebrew means the breasts, mamai, paps, the breast of a woman for giving suck, and Shada, to moisten, bedew, to give drink, to suckle. These agree with Kepha as the waterer, the inundation and mysterious fertilization of the Nile, which was female at first, and with Kifi, an Egyptian name of the breast and nipple. They identify Shadai with Menat, the wet nurse, and with Reret, the sow. The Hebrew Shadai was the suckler, and the name indicates that personification of the breasted or teated genetrix, the dia multimame, whose especial types are the hippopotamus, the cow, and the sow. It is possible that Hathor, in her primordial shape of Shat, may have had the sow form. But the monumental Egyptians had put that animal out of sight all they could, else the sow was probably the original of the many-teated type. Shah denotes all commencement of forms, births, becomings, and fertility, the period of the inundation, the substance born of, to make go out, to extract, cause to flow. Shat is the sow, and from the persistence of the type in Israel as the sacred or the abominable, there can be little doubt that the original symbol of Shadai, the suckler, was the Shat or Shati, the sow, just as in Britain the sow was a type of the goddess Ked. No picture of the dia multi-mamai could more effectively present the feminine nature of Shadai than the feminine biunity of the divinity in the description of this divinity of Israel in Genesis. Shadai, who shall bless thee with blessings of the breasts and of the womb, Genesis chapter 49, verse 25. The blessings of the breasts are the blessings of Shad, identified with Shadai. The Almighty could be equally derived from Kepha, who is mightiness, force, puissance personified. The being looked on as the power that pulled round the whole starry scheme, or at least led and headed the revolution, hence the appropriateness of the water cow, the huge behemoth type. Here it seems to me that in one of the numerous, obscure allusions of the Hebrew writings which have been generalized past recognition in rendering, Habakkuk has identified Shadai and Behemoth and coupled them together in one image. He's denouncing the ancient worship with its drink offerings, its exposures of nakedness, its graven images, and he intimates that the violence of Lebanon shall cover them, and they shall be overwhelmed by Shad Behemoth, the wasting or destroying behemoth, the typical beast, the gigantic animal of legendary lore that was worshipped as the representative image of the Typhonian genitrix Bekhma. The inner thought of such allusions is of more importance than the external phrasing. Shad, or Shadai, the divinity, when cast out, becomes the devil the Shad, as devils of a later cult. They sacrificed unto Shad is rendered unto devils. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 17. It is well to note the part played by the Hebrew points in shunting the reader off the line of the primitive thought. The origin of the devil is the result of beginning with the goddess without the god. So Keft, the Great Mother, furnishes the name of the evil one, the enemy, the devil. The worshippers of the mother were the godless, hence the devilish. The tie is an especial sign of the Typhonian genitrix, and one name of this tie or noose is Teper. The Hebrew tie worn on the head and the hand is called the tefillin, the prayers or appendages of prayer. Teb means to pray. The tie, or tefillin, has the letter shin on one side of it. The strap is fastened on the back part of the head in such a way as to form the letter Daleth, and the letter Jad is represented on the end of the strap depending from the hand. These three letters constitute the name of Shadai. The tie, tefillin, is another link between Tef, the goddess Typhon, and the Hebrew Shadai. Still another secret unfolds. Certain of the Jews were accustomed to write the number 15 not with the numerals 10 and 5, but with a 9 and a 6, as is supposed, to avoid writing the sacred name. It was not so. In writing the number 15 with the Teth, number 9 and VAV, number 6 they were preserving the name of Tef, the first one. We shall find various allusions in the later writings to this goddess of the beginning. For example, Keft is the hinder part, the tail, rendered by the hinder feminine thigh. It is likewise the north as the hinder part, where the tail of Typhon as the seven-headed dragon drew a third of the stars of heaven. Israel is identified with this tail. The Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, as she had been in the Jehovah cult. The hinder part, kept, is alluded to by Jeremiah, who charges Israel with saying to a stalk, Thou art my father, and to a stone, Thou hast brought me forth, for they have turned their hinder part unto me, and not their face. They were worshippers of the hinder part, the north and its goddess, whose symbol was the hinder, feminine thigh. They turned their faces and their images to the north in their worship, and this is represented reversely as turning their hinder part to the deity. Again it is written, The Lord will cut off from Israel head and tail, Isaiah chapter 9, verse 14. The prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail, Isaiah chapter 9, verse 14. She that hath borne 7 languisheth, she hath given up the ghost, her sun is gone down while it was yet day, she hath been ashamed and confounded, Jeremiah chapter 15, verse 9. This is the genitrix who brought forth the 8 gods. In the Hebrew mythology she bore the Beni Elohim, the morning stars that sang together in the dawn of creation when the foundations were fastened and the 4 corners were fixed. As Aditi, she bore the 7 sons in the Hindu mythology. As Sephakabu and Kept, Hepti, she is goddess of the 7. As Jehovah, she has the 7 eyes in the stone, the 7 eyes that run to and fro through the whole earth. Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear, thou that didst not travail with child. Isaiah chapter 54, verse 1. She who was unwedded to the fatherhood, and is therefore called the widow, thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, and shalt not remember the reproach of thy widowhood any more. Isaiah chapter 54, verse 4. The reason for this change proves the feminine nature of the divinity, hitherto adored. For thy Maker is thine husband, the Lord of hosts is his name, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the God of the whole earth shall he be called. Which, rendered literally, is, For thy Baals are thy makers, Yahweh King of hosts his name, and thy Redeemer, the Kadosh of Israel, Elohim of all the earth he shall be called. It is asserted that the Maker is the male, and the husband of Israel, who personifies the great mother whose peplum was never raised, and who figures here as the barren widow. The barren also applies to both male and female, and she is the unbegetting. The same strain is continued by Hosea, who treats the mother yet no wife as an abandoned harlot. The male lord denounces her, "Plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her put away her whoredoms, and I will have mercy on her children, the children of whoredoms. I will make her mirth to cease, her feast days, her new moons and her Sabbaths, and all her solemn feasts, and I will destroy her vines and her fig trees. I will allure her, and bring her into the wilderness, and speak comfortably unto her, and I will give her vineyards from thence, and the valley of Achor, for a door of hope. And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, thou shalt call me Ishi, and thou shalt call me no more Baali." Hosea chapter 2, verse 15. Ishi is the male, the husband. Then when this union takes place, the begotten son of the Father will be born as promised by Isaiah. This imagery is applied by Hosea in his first chapter. "Go, take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, belonging to her who is made to personate the great mother, and who as genetrix and feminine divinity without begettal is the great whore, whether of Babylon, Egypt, Israel, or Rome, because she was husbandless and bore her child, her branch, without the fatherhood." The bad language and worse sentiments of the prophets are not to be understood except on this theory of the motherhood, preceding the fatherhood, which was worshipped by the Hebrews under such names as Yahweh, Shaddai, and Ashtoreth. The change advocated by the prophets corresponds to the introduction of monogamous marriage in the social system. The Lord now says, "And I will betroth thee unto me forever. I will betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know the Lord." Hosea chapter 2, verse 20. The Lord is him that maketh the 7 stars and Orion. The 7 stars were the image of Typhon as genetrix, now treated as the thing made, and no longer as the maker. These represent the Great Mother and her son, Suthar, the son of the Typhonian genetrix, and here the 7 stars of the mother are coupled with Orion, the son. These represented the primeval mother, and the son born without the father now first found or founded in Israel. Isaiah, in grimly making merry over the time when Israel shall turn to the Lord, the male Javeh, and desert the lady of the 7 stars, says, "In that day, the day of the branch of the Lord, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, We will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel, only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach." The reproach of Israel being the worship of the woman of the 7 stars, the Queen of Heaven, here typified elusively by the 7 husbandless women seizing upon one man, just as in the ritual we have the 7 Hathors and the 1 bull, called the bull of the 7 cows. The same writer, in his anxiety to have the past blotted out and forgotten, conjures his countrymen thus: "Do not record beginnings. Do not dwell upon the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. The feminine origin of Jehovah Elohim and the status of the degraded divinity will alone account for such gross language applied to the worshippers as is found in Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 16, and 1 Chronicles chapter 5, verse 25. Only a female Elohim like Ashtoreth could have played the Zonah with her worshippers as described by the Hebrew writers. When the Great Mother was degraded and became the Zonah of the later writers, her name of Kivan or Khan supplied that of the harlot. Kenu is a name of the harlot, the concubine, the one who is not a legal wife, and the Hebrew Zonah, the harlot, corresponds to the Kenu. One of the rabbinical names for the Creator was Hamakom, the place, and it was a Jewish saying that the whole universe was not the place of God, but that God was the place of the universe. The divinity is here, the Creator, continued after the feminine pattern, imaged by the Hebrew Meskin or Shekinah. Makom, the place, numeral value 186, was identified by the Jewish gematria with Jehovah because, as it was said, the squares of the letters of the Tetragrammaton yield the same result. Herein lay a mystery unknown to Buxtorf. The true square was that of the four corners, the abode, as aft the reduced form of Keft. This fact must have been known to the rabbis, together with the feminine nature of Jehovah, as the place for them to have given the same value to the four letters which could be conveyed by the figures and produce the square of the place, symbolized by the Tetragrammaton. The place occurs as Makvum and as Makvon, a place, dwelling place, the heaven, heavenly seat, foundation, basis, the dwelling place of the divinity. The Egyptian Maken was the great double-seated boat of the solar god Tum. Then the word is modified into a habitation, dwelling place, heaven. This is identified with Saturn, or Baal Magvon, as his seat in the seventh heaven, and the tower of 7 stages, of which his was the topmost in the planetary adjustment of the imagery. This place, Ma, place, was the abode of Kivan or Kivim, the ancient Kebam of Ethiopia, the hippopotamus, and the two interchangeable names are identical with the Quem and Cefn, Chun, of the Kimri. The supreme deity Saturn obtained the name from Sut Typhon of the 7 stars. Kivan, the world-founding and sustaining divinity, was the feminine Kivan or Kun of the 7 stars, whose symbols were the place, seat, pillar, mount, and tower. The world was founded and established in the circle of the 7 stars of the Lady, before the courses of the 7 planets were observed. If we read Ma, the place, then Makom, Ma Kivan, or Ma Ken is primarily the place, seat, abode, the first foundation of Kifa, Kivan, or Kidan, all forms of the Typhonian genetrix whose son as Sut, Sutek, and Saturn became the Bar Typhon of Egypt, Baal, Zephon of the Hebrews, Baal Kivan of Phoenicia, and the Baal, Kidan of the Numidian inscriptions. Kifa, Kiva, Kivan was the mother before the name was given to the son as the planetary Saturn. Origin and birth is the idol of Israel, alluded to by Amos in the text. Yah have borne Eth Sikuth your Moloch, and Eth Kivan your image or idol, Kokab your Elohim, which ye made to yourselves. Leaving the meaning of Moloch to be dealt with hereafter, it is claimed that Kivan is the goddess of the 7 stars, the stars of the Elohim and of Ashtaroth, which are 7 in number on the monuments. Kivan modifies into Kon, Egyptian Ken, the inner place, the Kenu or Kenau, primarily the womb. Mes means birth, and the Mesken is the birthplace personated in Ken or Kivan. This will corroborate what has been said of the Mishkan, the tabernacle of the Hebrew divinity Jah Adonai, whether of the itinerating tent in the book of Exodus or the habitation in Jerusalem, the divine dwelling place, the Shekinah and Tkivna, the seat, both of which are identical with the Kana, Egyptian Cain or Kenu, the later image of jealousy, Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 3 through 5, Exodus chapter 34, verse 14. There is no more universal name for the genetrix than this which is derived from her image, the Quen, Hebrew, the hollow receptacle, the nest, Kona, Mao, Pudendum, Kenau, Kent or Hunt, the matrix, Chen, Chinese, Cant, Welsh, Quiente, English, Jean, Vey, Gons or Cons, Cornish, Kunz, Mandan, Con, French, Knai, Dayak, Kunam, Bathurst, Australian, Chan, Favorlang, Yoni, Sanskrit. The Kon or Kivan of heaven is the Queen of Heaven, Swedish Kuvena, and heaven itself has the same name as this Queen or Kivan. The image of jealousy denounced by Ezekiel is the Kane. It was worshipped in a lewd and idolatrous manner, and was placed to the north, the scat of the Great Mother. This image answers by name to Kivan and Ken, who was human first and celestial afterwards. The Ken set among the stars. Record not beginnings, says the anxious prophet, but these beginnings are of paramount interest to the sociologist. They reflect the most primitive thought. Yahan Kuna was the name of the famous temple of the Mayas, in which their oldest god, their Priapus, Baklam Cham, was worshipped, who corresponds by name and nature to the Egyptian Kem, found on the monuments with the goddess Kuin. Also offerings were made to their goddess of food, along with beans and maize, answering to the Hebrew kavan or cake. In Phoenician Chana was a title of Astarte or Calestis, the Queen of Heaven. The Hebrew deity herself is also said to be the Kana, Jehovah, whose name is Kana. And this is none other than the goddess Kiln, worshipped in the wilderness, the naked goddess also called Katesh, Ken, or Kenan, the snake goddess, who in Egypt was a form of Thermutis, the mother Tort. The very divinity who, according to Josephus, brought up Moses, and who, as Theruis, became his wife. Antiquities of the Jews, Book 2, 252-253. Kivan, the star of Elohim, can be related to Ken and Typhon by means of the dog star, or Ken, the star of the waters. The dog or bitch is Ken, egg. Shinan in Chinese, and the soul of the genitrix was said to dwell in the dog star. The earliest dog, the fennec, is an image of Typhon as Ken or Cana. The Hebrew, kavan, is a cake, a sacrificial wafer which was prepared for the Queen of Heaven, who has the same name as the cake. This signifies the founding and fixing of the world. It is hieroglyphical. The cake sign denotes land, earth, place, locality, orbit. It is the ideograph, therefore, of founding and establishing in space and time. The cake is carried with the divine drink by the Queen of Heaven, one of whose forms is Kepha in the tree, the cake that was offered to her on earth. Kepha or Kivan was the preparer, the world founding, and Kep means to create, to form, transform, cause to take shape, as in converting liquid into solid by caking. Kafnu is the oven of the cake. Kivan is the lady, Laftig, of heaven, whose cake is the sign of preparing, forming, creating, or founding the world. In Egyptian, both Nu and Nen denote the type, and according to Jewish interpreters, the word to prepare, to create, is kivnen. Kepnen means to form, create the likeness. Another name of the place in Hebrew is Athar. Build this house of God in his Athar. Let the house of God be built in his Athar. Athar is the name of the Egyptian goddess whose name is written with the habitation. She is the abode of Ar, a.k.a. the house of Horus, the god as son of the goddess Hathor, Ezra 5:15 and Ezra 6:3. Shitar is a name of the betrothed wife in the mystical sense. The betrothed was the pubescent. Thus, Shitar, or the goddess Ishtar in the Babylonian myth, is the Shedder personified, and the Shedda is one with Shat as Hathor. The Shatar, Hebrew Sethar, is the secret place of El Shaddai, the secret place, Sethar, of his tabernacle. The Sethar was the secret covert and the covering of El Shaddai. The Sethar is the feminine creatory identified with the Nether, female and hindward parts of the earth, where the waterer is imaged with the flowing breasts. This bridal chamber of feminine privacy was the secret place of Shaddai. The deity says, I answered thee in the Sethar of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah. Job 31:15, Psalm 27, 5, Psalm 91:1, and Psalm 81:7. On revanche, Isaiah, as the caster out, replies and threatens that the water shall overflow the Sethar. The Sethar is as much the feminine organ of the Hebrew god as were Shitar, the spouse, and Ishtar, the great mother, the better half of the Bayun nature of deity. Shet means secret, the hidden mystery, the closed, secret, sacred place of the womb or tomb. Shet denotes the crown house, the abode of breath. Shet is to suckle. Ar means the child, to conceive, make, create the likeness. Whence the secret place, as the Shitar or Sethar, is finally the birthplace. The Shedda of the deity is mysteriously alluded to in the ritual. I have been secret as the secret, the Shedda Teka of the god, knowing what they have in their bellies. Shedda Teka is the hidden in secret, the seer unseen, hence determined by the tortoise. This is in the chapter of turning into a phoenix, the Ben. The allusion is to the first feminine period of time and its shroud of secrecy. The oracle as mouthpiece of the deity figured on the ephod was the feminine symbol, the mut, or mother mouth. This was the same image as that of the woman who sat in the midst of the ephah called wickedness, whose resemblance was through all the earth. On account of this similitude, the mouth being the same symbol in ephah or ephod, the weight of lead was cast upon the mouth thereof to dam it up when the earlier worship had been cast out as whoreship, Zechariah chapter 5, verse 7, Judges chapter 8, verse 27. The koba is the genitalia manliebria, a pleasure chamber, and the vault of heaven in Hebrew. This is the primitive type of the Kaaba of the Moslem at Mecca. The type is the feminine abode, the belly, the womb. The nap is a cave, a hole in the earth, a tomb. This was a place of divination founded on the oracle of the womb. Isaiah speaks of the Kabirs who sit in grave vaults and seek declarations concerning the future in the abodes of demons. This origin gives appropriateness to the graves of lust, Isaiah chapter 8, verse 19. The Kep, cave or cave represented the secret place, the abode of Kepha, the Typhonian genitrix. Kep is a concealed place, a religious sanctuary. Kab means to give birth to, and the birthplace symbolized by the hinder thigh, the kepsh or kept. This is the Hebrew gab for the back or hindward part, Psalm chapter 48, verse 2. It is applied to the typical mount of the north, the high place and eminence of the female cult. In the margin the gab is rendered the brothel house, on account of its primitive simplicity as the image of the Gabaroth, the mistress, the lady of kingdoms, and queen of heaven. Kepti will read the cave of reproduction. Hebron or Kebron, the Keb of the wren, the nursling child, was one of the hills of Kepha, and in Hebron there is a double cave, a form of the dual house, or house of reproduction, which as Ahti is the womb. The followers of three religions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, vie with each other in adoration of this double gab or cave, yet it is identical with the brothel house denounced by Ezekiel. The Hebrew Gabiah includes the cup and the mount as the womb-shaped hill. This is targumized as Af-Gabi, and Af means born of. The Af, aft, is the place, abode, couch, four quarters of the ancient genitrix Keb. The Keb, Keft, as the thigh type of the north or hinder part, supplies the image in Psalm chapter 48, verse 2. Beautiful in elevation, joy of all the earth, is Mount Zion in the thighs of the north, or the thigh-like arched hollow of Zaphon, the type of Typhon. The English version says sides of the north, but it is thighs as shown elsewhere. Although a city, it was founded on the cave in the mount, the CEFN of the Paleolithic men, the Irish Cabhain for a particular shape of hill, and the Hebrew Gophen, Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 24. The abominations committed by Israel in the feminine cult, such as are enumerated in Leviticus, and many other places are summed up as Thevgaba, Nawin, or Typhonian, belonging to the worship of Shadai or the Shadim, in which the calf, Heifer, and the female goat also represented the Great Mother and the Kaaba, Gab, or Kep of Teph, Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 17, and Psalm chapter 106, verse 37. In the Kep, the Kaaba, Hebrew, the cave or womb, celestialized as the birthplace of the seven stars or Kepha, we have the original of the rabbinical Guf, the birthplace of souls, a spiritual Eden, which had taken the place of the primitive heaven of the feminine Kep, Kaaba, or CEFN. They say there is a treasury in heaven called Gu-Ph, and all the souls that were created in the beginning and are to come into the world hereafter, God placed therein. Out of this treasury, children in the womb are supplied with souls. The Talmud affirms that the Messiah, the son of David, will not come till the number of souls be completed, which are contained in Gu-Ph. That is not till all the souls created in the beginning and placed in that treasury shall have been sent into the world. This relates to the complete fulfillment of the cycle of precession and the great year of 25,800 years in the mythological astronomy.